Hello, everyone. Blessed full moon in Aries. My name is Alise A Prejean of KnowThyselfAndHeal.com. And I want to talk about the full moon. This is a very, very special full moon in so many ways. And one of the reasons why I say that is it is the full moon before we get into eclipse season. So at the next new moon, we're going to have an eclipse. So that's particularly interesting to be looking at what's going on in our lives, because it is a bridge into eclipse season. And the ruler or planetary guide of the full moon is Mars. Mars is the planetary ruler of Aries, where the moon is. And Mars is also the planetary ruler of the south node of the moon, Scorpio. So we know that Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. And really the way that I look at this is that Mars and Pluto have a very interesting and special relationship with each other in our own consciousness, because Pluto is the unconscious. So it is these scripts that are in the unconscious mind. And this comes from our relationship to how we've survived and thrived in our lives. And yet we are traveling consciousness. We're becoming more and more and more aware in our experience of ourselves in consciousness. And so Mars is this part of our consciousness that acts on an instinctual level from the unconscious mind. And so this is where we act before we think. We just instinctually act based on what we've now put into the unconscious mind, this Plutonian consciousness. And this is the part of our consciousness that desires to be empowered, desires to express its soul nature, which Scorpio represents. But in this co-rulership where Mars rules Aries, this shows what is not only what is in the unconscious, what is the unconscious defaults, but also what it is that we can see we want to act on presently. So we can find that what seemed to work for us in the past, or what we experience as past, or what is our instinctual nature, we desire to actually make an adjustment. And this is how Mars in its rulership of Aries, and Aries with Scorpio is in conjunct, it's a quincunx in the wheel of consciousness. And this is the aspect between 2 points in consciousness that require an adjustment. So when we have new desires that we want to act on, or we desire to act on, this requires an adjustment, because we have this instinctual nature that has to do with what we wanted to act on before, right? And so this can change. This, of course, is going to change because we're exploring consciousness. So we're not going to stay in the same consciousness. We're going to naturally desire to grow consciousness in ways, in new ways, to explore consciousness in new ways, right? And this is what Aries can be. It initiates something new. Aries is a cardinal sign. So cardinal energies, which is Aries, Libra, and Cancer and Capricorn, these are cardinal energies that initiate new things. So with this sun-moon opposition, as all full moons are a sun and moon opposition, this is a Libran aspect in consciousness, because Aries and Libra, Aries is the beginning of a cycle, and then Libra is what we see as other. So we begin cycles, and then we see the reflection in the outside world that can be reflected through what we see as other. Other can be circumstances. It can be people. It can be relationship. But it's always how we are relating to what we see out there, right? To other circumstances, situations, peoples, places, things, right? So with the moon in Aries opposing the sun in Libra, what's interesting about this is that Venus, this is the planetary guide of the sun now, right? Because the sun is in Libra, and the sun, well, Venus rules Libra, and Venus also rules or guides Taurus consciousness. So Venus as the ruler or planetary guide to Libra is the yang form of Venus, and Venus as the planetary guide to Taurus is the yin form of Venus. Now Venus is in what's called a balsamic conjunction to the sun, and so this is a completing cycle with the sun in Libra. And so you might hear my cats, they're running around. Okay, so anyways, Venus in a balsamic conjunction to the sun, interesting. It's completing a cycle with the sun, and the sun and Chiron has been in an opposition, Chiron being in Aries. And just so you know, Chiron is retrograde. It's at 14 degrees and 3 minutes to be exact. And the moon passed over Chiron as we were leading up to this opposition of the sun and moon, right? This full moon. So we could have been experiencing, or we can be experiencing, where it is we may feel we've experienced wounds in relating, and where it is that we may feel that our needs haven't been met in relationship or in relating or in something that's being reflected to us in the outside world. And really this points to acting on behalf of our own needs. Part of the reason I say that is because Mars is the planetary guide to Aries, and this is about acting on behalf of our own needs and our own identity, and really being in alignment with our own identity, being really centered in our own identity, in our own needs, in our relating. And this can be a little tricky in relationship because we are navigating our own needs and others' needs in relationship. But not only our needs, but also our values. And our needs being Mars, Aries, right? Our values being Taurus, where we've assessed our needs internally, right? Consciousness has moved inward and assessed what are my needs, right? And this is being updated with Uranus being in Taurus since 2018. And also since the North Node of the Moon is in Taurus as well. And what's interesting about this Venus in its placement in the sky, therefore in our own psychological development at the moment, at this full moon, being in a balsamic conjunction with the sun, is that Venus is in conjunct the North Node. And what is an in conjunction? It's an adjustment that has to be made, right? Because Venus is in Libra, this can be an adjustment in what we're seeing reflected back to us from the outside world and from our relationships and how we relate to it. This Venus is also in conjunct Uranus retrograde. And so this can be unexpected situations, circumstances, relationship dynamics in our lives where we are getting the opportunity to reflect and see the reflections coming back on how well we've been acting on behalf of our own needs, how those needs and values have been being updated with the nodes being in Taurus and Scorpio, and how our relationships can be changing on behalf of that, how relationships can be coming to a completion, or we can be seeing where adjustments absolutely have to be made in relationships or circumstances and situations in order to meet our needs in the moment. And really knowing that we are always needing to act on behalf of our own needs. And we are having to make adjustments based on our own evolutionary momentum. So this is an interesting thing to consider right now as we're experiencing this full moon. And what's interesting as well and pertinent in consideration is that when we are in relationship, as I said, it can get tricky in relating with another and their needs, and also maintaining our center with our own needs and our own self-reliance in meeting our own needs in relationship. So with Libra, what can be the adjustment from Taurus consciousness, right? And as we enmesh ourselves with others, this adjustment that has to be made between Aries and Scorpio, right, is that it's very important to maintain our center as we go out into the world and express ourselves in relationship. And so this is where we can bring our center to relationship. We can share with others in relationship, but we have to also continue to maintain our own center and our own needs. And so the one way that we maintain our own center is to keep our own needs in mind, to not get so enmeshed with another's needs that we lose our sense of self. We lose our sense of our own needs and our own values. And with Chiron being in Aries, what can be happening is that we can actually be acting on our own behalf and creating healing in relationship and the way that we relate to ourselves, the way that we act on behalf of our own needs, and the way that we relate with others. But we can also be inflicting wounds to our own identity and others' identity when we are not acting upon our own needs. And it can also be that we wound others if we project our needs onto others. So in other words, we can, especially with Mars being in Gemini, we can, in our attempt to act on behalf of our own needs, we can attempt to define others or project onto others to define others rather than to define ourselves by simply acting on our own needs, defining what our own needs are, not what others' needs need to be, right? But what our own needs are. So defining our values, defining our own needs, and defining ourselves based on that. So it isn't really our place to define for others or define others, right? So this is where we can harm others and their identity with Chiron and Aries if we are not being self-reliant, as the North Node points to in Taurus, because Taurus is about self-trust and self-reliance. And we We cultivate self-trust by acting on behalf of our own needs, acting on behalf of our own values, and also defining those needs and values and not imposing those needs and values onto others if they do not resonate, right? Because Venus is also about resonance. And it is also about Venus and Taurus, as well as Scorpio, Pluto, Mars, right? This is really about being willing to allow others to be empowered by their needs, in defining their needs and their desires, their values, even when it is different than our own. And also being willing to let go of relationships that are no longer resonant, where they may have been resonant to our own evolutionary momentum in the past, or what we experienced as past, but where we allow there to be differences, or we allow others in our lives, other relationships, circumstances, situations to fall away that no longer resonate. This is the Scorpio South Node. So interesting that Venus, in its completing conjunction with the Sun in Libra, this can be completing relationships or completing a way in which we relate to ourselves in relationship. And Venus is also trine Saturn retrograde in Aquarius. Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius at 18 degrees 44 minutes. And so this is a waxing trine to this Saturn retrograde in Aquarius. This is important. And one of the important things that I really wanted to bring to this video is that this Venus trine Saturn retrograde it's assisting us to notice our nervous system, because Aquarius and Uranus is about the nervous system. Mercury is in direct motion. It's in Virgo. It's just past the trine to Pluto. Pluto just went direct. Pluto went direct on October 8th, interestingly, at the full moon, right? So this is really powerful. So we want to be paying attention to our nervous system. What is our nervous system telling us? Do we feel safe in communication with others? Do we feel safe when we share who we are with others? Do we feel safe when we give of ourselves with others? Do we feel safe when we are creatively self-actualizing ourselves? The Sun is all about creative self-actualization. So no matter where the Sun is in your own chart, your own birth chart, or in the sky at the present moment, this is how we're self-actualizing. So do we feel safe to creatively self-actualize in our relationships? Because if we're always on edge internally in our bodies when we're self-actualizing and we're sharing our self-actualization process with others, if we don't feel safe, we're going to have a hard time, we're going to have a challenge in self-actualizing ourselves creatively. So, but we're here to be creators. We are naturally creators. This is our very essence, is to create. So it is very important to be able to feel safe to create, to self-actualize. And this does have to do with how we share who we are, how we creatively self-actualize, how do we create We create with our Mars and our Venus, right? This is our own personal, creative momentum, right? We create with the tools of our own masculine nature, Mars, and our feminine nature, Venus. We create our own personal heart chakra, from our own personal heart chakra, from our own personal love nature. This is the fixed Grand Cross in our charts or in the sky of Taurus and Scorpio, Leo and Aquarius. We self-actualize creatively, Leo, based on what we love. Our own heart chakra, which is Taurus, and Venus is guidance of Taurus consciousness. So Venus, in a waxing trine to Saturn retrograde, we can feel it in our bones. We can feel it when we don't feel safe. This is the beauty of Aquarius as well as Uranus, is really noticing our nervous system and really noticing what we're feeling in the body when we're with others or when we're self-actualizing our own creative purpose. And in order to self-actualize our own, not only evolutionary purpose, our creative purpose, our contribution to society, which is our own personal expression, our own unique self-actualization process, we must feel safe to do that. So this can be coming up in this full moon in Aries as well. So pay attention to the nervous system. Notice what's happening for you. Do you feel safe? Are you feeling safe? And this can really just be the call to really define ourselves, really state our needs in relating, really valuing ourselves by stating our needs, and being willing to let go of circumstances, situations, people in our lives that no longer resonate with that capacity of self-actualizing ourselves in new ways. So I hope this is helpful. I just want to share with you that Saturn's going to go direct on October 23rd. And it's going to go direct at 18 degrees, 35 minutes. You can find that in your chart. What house is it in? Because that's going to show you what aspect of life. You'll notice that direct motion. Uranus, just so you know, goes direct January 22nd of 2023. So we got a ways to go. It's going to go direct at 14 degrees. So be aware of that. Where is that happening in your chart? And Pluto went direct October 8th and 26 degrees Capricorn. Mars will go retrograde at 25 degrees October 30th of 2022, which I'm going to do a video about, so you can stay tuned. And as I said, I hope this is helpful. The full moon is October 9th, 2022 at 1:55 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so you can translate that to wherever you are in the world. So just want to give you that particular information in case it's helpful for you. And just so you know, I do have a Facebook group. It's called The Labyrinth, A Journey Through the Eclipses, which is a community that I'm building on Facebook where we can support each other through eclipse seasons. And I'll be doing a Zoom call or a live there in talking about the eclipses. If you want to join, you're certainly welcome. I will put the link in the comments for that group. You can request to join. It's a free group, And so all are welcome. And you can find me on Facebook at Alise A Prejean, Astrology and Healing Arts, or on my personal profile. And you'll be able to find a link to the group as well on my personal page. So I hope this is helpful. If you like it, please do like it so it gets distributed on YouTube. And I'd love to hear your comments, insights, thoughts, experiences. That always makes the conversation more rich. So if you feel inclined to comment, please do comment. If you feel inclined to share, please share the video. And if you feel inclined to subscribe to my channel, I'd be happy to have you as a subscriber. And so may this be a blessed full moon, and I'll see you in the next video.